There we go. We're going live. Means we're out and about. Right. We ready to go, James?
I'm good. Let's do it.
We're good. Yeah. We'll just give people a minute or so to come on and join. So hopefully we got some people that are up and about this time of morning. It's not too late. So I hope they're not still in bed, but it is a bank holiday Monday all the same. So we'll give people some grace. But you've been up and about already, James, haven't you?
Yeah, been out. I've been up since 4:15, swimming in the sea with the dogs.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty good, and that's what we're going to cover some of this about, routines and I think myself, and I don't get it right all the time, but those kind of routines are so important to setting up your day. And I know when I don't do them, it all goes a bit wrong.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you the foundations for your day.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, we'll talk a little bit more about that. So, we'll get going now. So, welcome to Dad of Soul Live. I'm Mark Croppy, and I'm here today with James Boardman. Hello, James. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
That's all right. No problem at all. And if you're watching this live, then please join in with the conversation. Say hello. Let us know we're not on our own here. And if you want to pass any questions to me or James, please do. This is also going out as a watch party at 8 p.m. this evening on Monday, the 25th. So if you are watching this back, we will also be there on the watch party, and we can pass on any questions to James at a later date. So, as I said, we're joined by James Boardman. He's an ex Royal Marine Commando who served as a sniper and a physical training instructor. He now helps dads to stop living and start existing, rediscover the best versions of ourselves in life and business. He's an author and he's a dad of two. So, James, now I've summarised your whole life in one paragraph. Can you fill in the gaps and tell us about yourself?
Yeah. I'm actually a dad of three.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm a dad of three that I know of. The aim was always, when I left the Royal Marines, I left home to come back to the just two kids that I had at the time when I left. And that was back in 2011. And the Royal Marines had been a real amazing chapter in my life in terms of like going from nothing and kind of being lost in life to having clear direction and what was a fantastic career. And I had all plans of staying in for my whole 22 years, which is how long you serve in the military for. But we had changed personal circumstances where we wanted the children to go back home to have groundings, foundations. Instead of moving around with me every 2 years, we just wanted to be in one place. So we went from living together to them being there. And that obviously meant every weekend I was doing a 700-mile round trip just for a day and a half to be able to spend with the kids, my dad died when I was 5. So I kind of knew what it was like, to not grow up with a dad. And despite me still being alive, it's never really present in the moment. So I made the very difficult decision to leave the career that I loved, to go home, to be around. It didn't pan out the way I wanted it. I would say the following 3 years couldn't have got any worse in terms of, I ended up divorced. I ended up really struggling with PTSD from leaving one environment to another. And that led to a lot of mental health issues, a lot of emotional issues, just a lot of identity crisis, trying to hold on to the Sergeant Royal Marine identity in a civilian world where it no longer existed, and trying to figure out who I was kind of led me to a point of where it was nearly just enough was enough for me. But managed to bounce back, found purpose, found an amazing girl, built up myself through building up my businesses, and sit here today having spent a good 6 years on myself. Probably more so on the last 2 years, I would say I've really massively focused on myself and really upped my game. So we now have a 3-year-old daughter with my new partner. We're getting married next year. I've just closed down one business and purely now working on the Man Coach and enjoying life and helping guys really, pull themselves out from the trenches to kind of like stop existing. Is that like stop existing through life and start living? That was always the that was always the mantra, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like for yourself, like a lot of dads in life, that the catalyst for making change in your life beginning was having the kids.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm two very different dads. The dad of my first two children, I was very young. So we're going back, I was 27. I was probably very selfish still. In fact, I was very selfish. And despite, I loved my kids, but the first 4 years of their life, I was in Afghanistan fighting. I was doing training exercises. I was training myself. My career was developing, and sometimes I think it was probably 2006. I was actually only in country maybe 3 months. So I actually wasn't around a lot. So that was very frustrating. So yeah, it was difficult. But then I've grown, as we all do. I've evolved as a guy, as a dad. And then we had Alba 3 years ago, where I'm a very different type of dad, where I'm, fully, it's not that I wasn't fully committed then, but I'm present more now. I'm much more mature. I have a better concept of myself and understanding and control elements of myself and life as well, right? So, I think if you look at there's 10 years, well, it's longer than that. So 20, so there's like 11 years difference between my youngest, as in the first generation, and little Alba now. So in terms of me and the growth of me, there's 11 years difference between maturity, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense to me. And as watchers of the show will know, I've got a nearly 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 6-month-year-old.
Wow.
So I feel a completely different dad now to little Reggie as I did to the others. And like you said, sometimes I get a bit of guilt to think, why couldn't I have done that with the other kids? Because I wasn't as mature as I am now, and I didn't spend so much time with them. But I don't think to say I'm making up now, but I do feel like I'm a better dad. So your story, different paths, but that side of it's very similar. Just seen Errol's popped up there. Good morning, Errol. Thanks for your question. So Errol says, did you always know you could turn your life around to stop existing and to start living?
That's a good question. So I think when you're in the thick of it, when you're in the thick of a storm, it's very difficult to see outside of that storm. It's a really interesting thing. I never thought I'd ever be in that position where my life was bad, right? I was a sergeant in the Royal Marines. I had purpose, passion, drive, ambition. I built up a lot of respect in terms and worked very hard to get to the place I was in my career. And I never really expected my life to be a black hole, if you like. So when I came out, I didn't really probably realize I was in that black hole to the very last months of it, and even more so now when I reflect back and some of the thoughts that I was going through. But actually, one of the turning points was I actually went for a run. It was on the night when I was like contemplating tapping out, and I went for a run, and I went for a run, and I just wanted to go and clear my head. And it ended up being it was like 3 a.m. and I didn't get back till 6 a.m. So I ended up going out for 3 hours. And I just the black cloud, it really cleared my head, which will become apparent in terms of when we talk about routines later on. But when you kind of lift the black cloud, the storm, and you can kind of see daylight, if that makes sense, you can start realizing that there's a better way of doing things. The problem is the self-awareness issues that we have are restricted by the cloud that we live in, by all of the firefighting, the hamster wheel of life, constantly always fighting daily problems and never really thinking about us. And it's kind of a misplaced priority that we don't actually realize we're just existing, that we're just, waking up, doing the same stuff every single day, going to bed, waking up, doing the same. And we're not really pushing out ourselves individually. We're just meeting everyone else's needs. So I guess after that run, the answer to the question was that, there's a better way of living, and I've got to go about doing that. And everything that happened post that really helped me raise the game.
Yeah, I think actually, one thing you touched on there is that sort of, in the storm effect, and I'm lucky I've not experienced it, but since working with Dad the Soul, I've seen it in other people, and Matt, who's there in the background producing, says sometimes it's a bit like being in a goldfish bowl. You can see nothing else but that. And I like the analogy. I like going hill walking and up mountains, and that thing of sometimes you can see the storm coming and you can see it's there, but you can see everything else. And it's like, okay, there's the storm. When you suddenly enter that mist and that storm, you can see nothing else but that storm, and you don't know if it's ever going to end, do you? And then all of a sudden you pop out the other side.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of the stuff that we'll talk on later is about preventing it from even showing up, and how you go about doing that. And, we do that for routines and rituals, and, which I think is really important to do.
That's one thing that's really important to us as Dad the Soul. There's some great organisations out there from when people get to the cliff edge. But what we want to do as an organisation is stop people getting to that cliff edge. That is the last resort. If they're making a phone call standing quite literally at the edge of a cliff or a platform, then, a lot of damage has already been done. So if we can talk about things like this in an open manner like we are now, then hopefully people don't need to get into that state. So you're so you've got your Facebook page, The Man Coach, and you blog quite a lot on there. So I've been following that, which is really good. You've also got a book, so you're an author. It's a really great book, guys. If you want to, actually, we should get Matt to try and find the link to that and post it up there. So one of the things you post on there actually is your early morning runs. You're a bit of an early riser. How important are morning routines? And tell us a bit about the golden hour.
Okay, so the morning routine is sort of vital. If you ask my missus, if I didn't go on a morning routine, it's just don't come near me. I'm a nightmare. But the morning routine is my own way of warming up for the day. Okay, that's the easiest analogy I can give it. Before we do exercise, we warm up to prepare the body and the mind for the physical activity ahead, right? For me, the morning routine is a way for you to, number one, get time for yourself, which we don't really get a lot of, and especially your listeners being dads, you don't get that a lot of time to yourself. It's time to exercise, reflect, to get clarity. It's a great time to think a little bit about what you're grateful for in your life. It's about setting routines and rituals. And when we talked about preventing the storm from coming, it's about staying on top and keeping your head above water rather than drowning in everything that's going on around you. So for me, my morning routine is a strict regime from Monday to Friday, but on the weekends I have no routine. So it's a really nice balance and mix. Okay, so on Saturday and Sunday I get up when I feel like it, or wake up when I want. I don't set any agenda, and we kind of just roll with the punches. Okay, there's a couple of things that we do when it's normality in terms of taking a little one to jiu-jitsu, having a coffee morning at Costa, nice little things that we do there. But Monday to Friday is all in. So I'm up at 4:15 every single morning. Wow. And my morning routine lasts all the way through to 9 o'clock in the morning. The golden hour, okay, I'm fortunate enough to be in that position because I kind of work for myself, and I've spent the last 3-4 years creating a lifestyle design that suits me and makes me happy, right? And that's based and predicated on time and energy spent in the world. So the golden hour is a man's or dad's opportunity to get some focus and clarity in a 1 hour period. Now, there's a lot that you can achieve if you're productive, and it's something that you, I think, have to, number one, understand takes a little bit of time to get into and get your flow. Number two, understand the things that you want to do. And number three, it's a progressive thing. So, for example, what I always recommend is finding some form of headspace. Now, that is in the form of a meditation, or I listen to an app called Calm, and that's like a 10-minute thing, just clears your head. Some form of gratitude, some form of clarity, and some form of activity. And those four pillars in the morning, I feel, can help with everything that's going on in here in terms of being prepared for the day. So an example would be 10 minutes meditation, 5 minutes writing down in your journal the things that you're grateful for, spending 5 minutes looking at your diary from the night before when you planned about the top 3 things that you need to achieve for the day, hitting 30 minutes worth of exercise, okay, and then shower, cool down, breakfast, boom, you're ready to go for the day. So, you know, with the guys that I work with, it takes a little bit of perfection. My morning routine has changed dramatically over the last 2 years, changed again when we went through the COVID. And actually now I'm running the best routine that I've ever did. Like when I talk about opportunities during COVID routine, it's about finding things that you can do. And I'd probably bump into 1 or 2 people during my 4-mile walk in the morning. Yeah. I now probably walk past 30, 40 people in the morning.
Wow.
You know, and I start my walk at 4:45 and I finish it at about 10 to 7. I do lots of stuff in between that. But the amount of people that are now coming out in the mornings and seem to be having a morning routine, since everything that's happened in terms of the COVID, people are using that opportunity, I think, to rise and shine, if you like.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I feel routines are really important to me. I don't always get them right, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Just to say, everyone that's watching, thank you for joining us. Please comment. Please get involved. And actually, if you're listening to this and hopefully you're enjoying it and you're still there, can you hit the share button, please? Because let other people know you're watching, and hopefully get the message out there for Dadless Soul. So I'm here with JB, James Boardman, and we're talking about the state of mind and the effects on us. And actually, we're just talking about routines at the moment. We've just covered the golden hour and morning routines. What do you also have an evening routine as well to kind of end the day? And is that really important to have that as well as the morning routine?
So I think the most important part, having worked with a lot of guys and myself, to an evening routine is something called what's called a transition routine. Now, the biggest problem for what a lot of men face is going from a workspace to a personal space. Yeah. And being able to drop the emotions, the thought processes, everything that's going on in their head. And a lot of guys will end up taking the armor into the house and everyone's treading eggshells around. You're coming in, you're having a beer, you're drinking, you're feeling negative, you're not being present for the kids. So a transition routine is a process that you'll go through from the minute you leave work to be able to get to the front of the door and leave your armor at the door. Okay. And it's things like brain dumping. So writing down everything that's going on in your head, everything that you need to do, everything that's happened today. You can call it a journal. Some call it brain dumping. But what it does is just empties everything that's going on in here so that you can be literally focused just on everyone that's in your house. Listening to a podcast, listening to an audio book, okay, writing down aspirations, writing down your vision. It literally could be anything of those terms that distract your mind. It transitions from thinking so much about work to actually getting into personal space. So when you walk through the front door, you then enter personal space. You put your phone on aeroplane mode or do not disturb, so only favorites can get through. Leaving that on the desk and actually being present in the home, okay, which is something a lot of guys don't do. You know, they're here on their laptop or on their phone. You know, maybe the kids are, Dad, are we going wrestling? We're going to play football. Are we doing this? Are we doing that? I'm too tired. I just want a beer. I just want to sit down. Like, we're not being present in the moment. I don't think sometimes it's that self-awareness chip that we forget that, God, like, these guys haven't seen you all day. They're desperate to see you. Okay. So it kind of leads into that evening routine of like, what time do you start playing with the kids? When do they go to bed? When's it date night? When's it time with the wife? And you break that down into segments all the way till you go to bed. So for me, the evening routine starts from my transition from when I leave work. Yeah. Transition routine, time with the kids go to bed, family time. What are the rules that you have in place in terms of phones, laptops? You know, so you can commute. Otherwise, you're like this, right, on the sofa while you're missing. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing this. Like on Facebook, rather than having real chat, and we miss that interaction, right? So, believe it or not, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're there and you're non-communicating with your partner, or you're stressed and you're frustrated, that just carries throughout the day, right?
Yeah, I totally, and sometimes it's really hard. And actually, I'll just go back in a minute to Dave's question that punched up, but Dan's just come up saying good morning. So morning, Dan. We were chatting earlier on. He's the founder of Dad the Soul, and yeah, I mean, one of the things Dan talks about actually is not being present. You know, when he was working and coming home, and actually, you know, being with his kids and having a phone in one hand, the kid in the other. You know, wishing them to go to sleep. Because they wanted to get on and answer these emails. And I hear that from so many dads. So I think that brain dumping is really important. And actually, I wanted to pick up on what Dave said, because, you know, a big tip for doing a to-do list. And I think it is really important to have that brain dump for me, because my mind is going crazy and thinking, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. But just to add to that, Dave, as well, and to everyone else, what I've been doing, it's a tip I picked up, and we're using it for our Dad the Soul to-do list as well, is numbering them 1 to 3. Ones are your high priority, because obviously you get a massive list like that and you look at it and you panic and you freak out. You know, your number 2s on the list aren't done until the number 1s are done. You know, you get those out of the way, and then 2s can become 1s, and your 3s, sometimes they sit there and get completely scrubbed off the list because they're not that important. But, you know, you want them there. So actually by prioritizing your to-do list can actually make you more efficient and not worried about looking at 20 items on the list, because you know the number 3s you don't have to worry about now.
100%, yeah, definitely. And we use that tactic as well. And then one of the things that we do is break the things down into 4 pillars. So when you do your brain dump, it's a little bit more specific as well. So you have health, business, relationships, personal development. And what we teach guys at the start of the week in terms of what they've got to do for next week is fold the paper into 4 quarters, and then you have each one. So when you do the brain dump, it's specific and relative to the subject. So things you got to do with your partner or relationship, things you got to do for personal growth, things you got to do for your business, things you got to do for your health. And that really just takes it into that priority there. And then what I tend to get the guys to do is have 3 things that they want to achieve by the end of the week. So, just the problem is that everyone wants to achieve the 7, 8, 9, 10 things. And like what you said, it just doesn't happen. And we use timetabling. So if you think when you're at college, right, you base your life around a piece of paper that tells you where you're going to be, at what time, studying what lesson with what teacher. You can then base your private life. When you're a student, you want to go down McDonald's, when you can do extra shifts, when you have study time, you base everything around that. But then when we go into the real world, we don't live off a timetable. We just cuff our days every last minute. So you don't really focus on it. And the timetable tells you where you're going to be at what time and allows you to manage your time and your energy. So once you've done your brain dump, you take all your priorities, stick them on a timetable, and then you start building that timetable and time and energy. So I could say to you where you're going to be on Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning, you'll be able to tell me. And then what you start seeing are patterns of routine and structure that are going on.
Right. Okay. So it's almost breaking them down to different levels of your life, because I think, you know, it's quite easy to have a work to-do list and work achievements, but actually to have life goals, family goals as well. So yeah, actually that's I like that one. I might start breaking those things down.
What in their career though. So when I work with guys who they come in and they say to me, and I ask them, okay, let's talk about your goals and your careers. All they ever talk about is their business. And when I turn around to them and say, all you've spoken about what you're going to do for a company that pays you money, or what you're going to do for your business. You haven't once told me what you want to do personally, which is which is the imbalance, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're all guilty of doing it. You know, we're all guilty of doing the same thing. And I think it's really important to make sure you set goals in your life. Me and my wife actually sit down every 3 months and we kind of write down our goals, and then we revisit it. And things might have changed quite a lot. In fact, this is the first time in a while I haven't done it with lockdown happening, and maybe I should have done it. We wrote down goals in end of December, and then normally we review that end of March. We'd have a holiday, we'd come back and we'd review that, because once you have had a holiday, you've had that fire break. But actually, because that didn't happen, we haven't done it. So I'm looking forward to, at the end of June, kind of sitting down and reviewing our life plan. But, you know, I think what you got to do is be able to write it down and not be afraid that that's probably going to change quite rapidly. And in the last year, my life has changed massively, you know, especially having another baby come along. So we've just got Tyler pop up there saying, if you have a routine but slip out of it, what's the best way to get back on it? something I struggle with sometimes, because everything's going well, and then all of a sudden you think, hang on, I've lost this routine.
I think I kind of call it the reset button. And so what I've just spoken about in terms of that timetable, and what you spoke, I'm just going to elaborate on what you spoke about, which is really good. Now, one of the things that I get the guys to do is that we work off every quarter. So we're aggressive in our 12-week approach. So the things that we want to achieve in those 12 weeks, they have a higher sense of purpose. And so it depends on the individual. But when I was 40, I set a 10-year goal for things that I wanted to achieve when I was 50. Okay. There were just like outrageous things that I went like, this is what I want to achieve. This is where I want to be in 10 years. That was kind of like my North Star. I then brought that back down to a 5-year checklist where I needed to be at 45 and then where I needed to be at 41. So reverse engineer the plan. So every time I do a 12-week plan, I kind of, and it's all part of it. It's the smallest step to the bigger picture, if you like. All right. So when it comes to you slipping out of routine, when it comes to you falling off the wagon, whatever you losing your mojo, whatever it is that you want to do, you can reset the way that you're thinking, everything you're doing by remembering what the whole purpose of everything is. Now, when people lose routine, mojos, falling off the wagon, it's because there usually isn't a why, a sense of purpose, a reason why we're doing it. So there's no connection, there's no meaning, there's no drive. But why the hell is he getting up? My language is falling. Why the hell is he getting up at 4:15? But I'm on in my head over the years now, I'm just on a mission. Like I'm on a 10-year mission. If I don't get up at 4:15, it means that, that is like that 10-year plan is completely not strong enough. It's not suitable enough for me. So whenever I slip or feel myself slipping, I can recalibrate myself, reset myself by just looking at that plan, going, right, let's just look at where we were and let's get back on that tomorrow. I mean, that doesn't happen really anymore. I don't really slip anymore as much as I want to. As much as the alarm goes at 4:15, sometimes I'm like, fuck this, I don't want to do this. You overcome that and you get into the habit of not falling off the habit. Anything you do is habit. When you lose your mojo, when you lose your focus, when you lose your drive, it's habit because you've been doing it in the past. Yeah. You give up after 2 weeks because you haven't lost a stone. It's habit that you give up. It's come from a childhood habit. But you can change that neurologically by consistently finding the 1% win every day. So if you slip, you're like, how do I bring that back? How do I bring that back? And the more you get into the habit of not slipping, not allowing yourself to slip, the better you get at that ritual and that routine.
Yeah, I think something that's popped up later, and actually Tyler's been part of this as well. Before lockdown happened, me and a mate of mine were talking about doing the fan dance, which I'm sure you've heard of, is part of the SAS selection. So it's a 4-hour or under 4-hour, 10-minute tab across the Brecon Beacons over Penny Fan, wearing 40 pounds. I kind of had that as focus. I thought, actually, I kind of want to do that. I've climbed Penny Fan and Snowdon, and I just wanted to kind of put a bit more of a challenge into life. And actually, that gave me real focus. And I started going down the gym because I had that goal that I wanted to do. And then lockdown happened, and I kind of lost that for a bit. So we set up a Davdasol running club on Strava. So if anyone out there wants to join us, and we were doing 100k in May. So whether you walk, run, just to get out there and get active. And actually, it's encouraged a lot of people, having people come back that have joined the Davdasol running club that said, I've been so much more active, trying to get that. I mean, I think I'm now 20k off the 100k for this month. Right. I've literally been doing, 5k runs. I mean, at the beginning, my legs were killing me. It was awful. And I was thinking, why I'm doing this. I've only just got round to joining up the 5k without stopping, and I brought it down from 38 minutes down to 30 minutes. I'm feeling like I'm getting something out of it because of that goal. And what we're going to do next month is set ourselves another goal, because otherwise that's just going to slip and evaporate.
100%. And that, what you're talking about there, is having a connection or a meaning to show up and do the ritual. But we did it. So for our mastermind members, we're doing an internal half marathon on the 4th of July. Right. So everyone's going to run in that day, and everyone that does it, we're going to send a medal out to them. And they're like, wow, look, I still managed to get a medal even through lockdown and stuff like that. And the other thing is kind of going for the third quarter, we can almost start thinking about doing events again, right? Because by the time September, end of August, September, October, we can start thinking about that cycle. And like what you guys are doing, it keeps the momentum. There always has to be a momentum, a reason why. Because as soon as that reason why is gone, you're just like, what's the point in getting up? There's no point in getting up. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. And I know Tyler as well, who popped up there earlier. You know, he had an injury a little while ago, and you know he put his feet up for a bit, but then he was back on it. And I know it's motivated a lot of other people. I just see a comment popped up. Producer Chris is there watching in the background. Good morning, Chris. So he's normally there helping us. So we got Matt in there this morning. Tyler's got another one here. We're creatures of habit, having a bigger goal, reason, dream, purpose to the daily routines. Not really set these. So yeah, I think obviously just a comment to what we just said. It's about
vision. Yeah, it's just a vision. Like, you know, I think when you have a vision, some people call it a goal, a landscape, a reference point, a vision, and it's joining up all the dots. You know, when you connect all the dots, boom, that's where you get to at the end. And if you know there's some point where the dots don't connect, that's usually where people's dip are, and they end up in the trenches. That then starts going. They then start self-doubting themselves, and that's where the anxiety, depression, and all those negative emotions end up coming in, right?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So we're just we're halfway through the show already. Can't believe it. It's going so quick, and I think you know, I'm really enjoying it. I hope everyone else is out there. If you are, this is Dad the Soul Live. Please hit the share button. Let everyone else know that we're here this morning. Get them to join in. And if you're listening to this back this evening on the watch party, and you've got any questions for either me or James, please put them up. We'll be there to answer them, and I can forward anything on to James afterwards. And this is funded by Worthing Community Chest. So thank you, Worthing Community Chest, for funding these sessions. A question for you, and it's something I feel is really important, but I wonder if it's something you talk about a lot. And I know you get up early, but how important is sleep to our routines, to our life, to our mental health?
Yeah, I definitely think that sleep is important. Where I find most men sabotage sleep is staying up watching pointless TV, looking at a phone through Facebook, doing work, doing what I would call unproductive work. You know, a lot of people trying to get projects finished or emails finished because they haven't planned properly, and it ends up keeping them up late at night. I think it's important. You know, I go to bed at 9. I'm asleep probably on average by 9:30. So, you know, I on average we get 6.5 hours sleep, which for me is absolutely enough. When I used to have 8 hours of sleep, I'd end up being it'd be harder for me to wake up because I'd be in a deeper sleep cycle. But yeah, I think it's inevitable. We need that rest. We need that recovery while we're awake and conscious. You know, we're full on. We need to have that rest. We need to have that time out. And I think the transition routine and the evening routine that I spoke about, one thing I didn't mention is that whole system and routine that we build up towards going to bed is all designed so that we can be in the most relaxed state possible. So if you're going through Facebook at 9 o'clock at night and you've seen something you don't like and it's triggered you, we all know what that's like, where we start going, "That's a prick," like, and suddenly you go off on one, but then like your alertness in your brain suddenly starts to go off and your adrenaline starts running. So that's you guaranteed to be awake till at least 11 o'clock. Yeah. So, you know, I switch off from social media from 5:30. Anything that goes on social media after 5:30 from me is either something because I have to, because it's work, or it's scheduled. I don't scroll anymore. I follow very little people on Instagram. I follow hardly anyone on my personal Facebook page. You know, they're only friends and family. I think you've got to, I think without diverting too much from the sleep thing, I think in terms of creating an atmosphere that allows you to sleep, you've got to be surrounded by a positive environment. My dogs have literally just gone off.
That's right.
Surround yourself with a positive environment so that you're on top. So I think control is really important, consistency, clarity, those kind of three things that are going on, and it all kind of builds up to getting a good pattern of sleep.
Yeah, I definitely think, you know, a lot of people spend too much time in the evening on social media and maybe working too late. I'm definitely guilty of that. I try and cut off from anything at about 8 p.m. I go to bed about 10, read for half an hour. I even think that's too late. I should be really cutting off a bit sooner. Try to not watch too much TV, and that really helps with the routines. I feel that I need a bit more sleep than 6.5 hours. I'm probably about 7.5, but be interesting to experiment with that actually and see if I can survive on a little bit less.
That's all it is. I mean, you know, when we were in Afghan, so a lot of the time we'd only run on 4 hours sleep, like, you know, centuries and stuff like that. And you know, I think everybody is different. Everybody is built differently. And like you say, testing is a great way of doing it. It's kind of going, all right, I'm going to go to bed at 9. You know, I used to go to bed at 11. We used to go to bed at 11 after watching TV. I'd be up later though. So all I'd done in theory is move my day left.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just shifting it around a bit. And I think you also picked up on a good point there about, you know, and it goes back to what we're talking about, evening routines and about cutting off completely. I think something I've done that's helped with that is and I've permanently turned off notifications on my phone. But actually, I know a lot of phones have settings where you can set them into an evening mode where you don't get the notifications. But my emails are always on fetch. Actually, my phone most of the time is on silent. I don't have Facebook notifications. If I want to go in there, I go in and see them. And actually, things like Facebook, I've put in a tile. I know you can do this on the iPhone, and I've put the tile. I've called it time wasters. So I know when I'm going in there, I'm going in there to waste a bit of time, and that's okay to do sometimes. But I see some people, you know, you're chatting to them, and their phone beeps, and they're like, "Oh, hang on a minute," and that just does my nut in, you know.
That's the habit thing again, though, isn't it? You hear something, or it triggers a response, bang, you go straight into it. You know, you walk into a dark room, you switch the light on, you hear a noise on your phone, you attend to it straight away. And I think that's the one. I'm always on do not disturb. Like very rarely do I not. And the only people who can get through to me is the partner, my 2 oldest kids, the kids' mum, and anyone else that's important that will need to get hold of me, you know, and that's it.
Yeah, I know, and I sort of my mum actually said to me about responding to messages, and I told her about this. She said, you know, what if a customer needs to get hold of you? And well, they have to learn sometimes to wait as well. I'm not always there for them. I'm not always on call. You know, and if you run
they're not. Don't be a customer. That's how I always think about it.
Absolutely. You know, if they're demanding a message at a Sunday evening, actually, do you really want them as a customer? Because they're going to be like that anyway. If you run a business through Facebook, actually, you can now set up loads of auto messaging. I've got one on my business that says, thank you for your message. My normal operating hours are this. Could you please send this extra information if you haven't included it already? And I will get back to you during normal times. You know, they get a response, and you can set up that on your websites, on your Facebook. You know, I think it's hard for people when they don't get a response, because then they're going to follow you up. So use the autoresponders on Facebook, on your emails or anything, to let them know that you will get back to them when you can.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
And it takes the pressure off you. I wanted to go on because obviously being an ex Royal Marine PT instructor, and that's something you do quite a lot now on your Facebook pages is the fitness. How can we tell the difference between pushing ourselves further, so getting that extra 1%, 10%, and actually pushing ourselves too much? Because I've been guilty of doing that. I've been guilty of going, you know, I can get a little bit more, and maybe just going that a little bit too far, and then spending the next 2 or 3 days in a lot of pain.
So I think a lot of it is down to listening to your body and recognizing and understanding your body. Like, you know, if let's say 10K is like a real push for you, like, you know, if you haven't done 10K in a long time and you get there, but you do that every single day of the week, and by the end of it you can't even walk, you've got to kind of like ask yourself, what on earth are you doing? So I think it's number one, it's dropping the ego. A lot of men train like their egos are training for them. I've been down a gym. I've seen guys trying to deadlift weight that they shouldn't even be near. I've seen guys coming straight in, not even warming up, going on a bench press, you know, and the bar, having to save the bar off the chest. You know, I've seen guys who just allow their ego to overwhelm them completely, right? So much so that they injure themselves and actually frustrate themselves. So I think common sense, not allowing the ego to overtake you, and understanding where you are and where your levels are right now, important. So if you're like you just started running 5K, so a reasonable challenge, I would say, is that by the end of June is for you to be running 10K, like easy. You know what I mean? But if I said to you, all right, when you're running 20K by the end of like June, you were like,
yeah.
Like, then what you start doing is injure yourself. And this is not like how you do anything is how you do everything. So if I try to initiate morning routines, evening routines, structure, timetables, everything on somebody that came into my world on a program, and I tried to teach them all in the first 5 days, everything, they'd be completely overwhelmed, right? They would pay attention, they'd be overwhelmed, they'd be lose interest. And it's the same for physical. When you try to do too much too soon, your body just can't sustain it. All right. So it's moderation, 1% wins. Think about the long-term process. I talked about this on my show this morning. You know, a lot of people sort of overestimate that where they can be in a year, but underestimate where you can be in 5 years. Do you know what I mean? And that completely distracts you from what's achievable.
So it goes back again to goal setting, really, doesn't it? You know, we want to be able to push ourselves that little bit each time, but we don't want to over push it. Yeah. And I know, actually, if we can just punch back up Tyler's comment there, he says that, you know, he goes over the top sometimes. Let's just get Matt to bring that up. So he tends to have a lack of control, goes over the top, overdo it. Any recommendations for calming down a bit and not pushing too much? So I guess that'll go back to setting the next goal. So I suppose, like for me, it's like, okay, let's do 10K by the end of June. So maybe he needs to set some personal training goals and not try and over push those.
So what I would recommend with someone that's got so much energy in the gym is have one designated day where you go all in. Do you know what I mean? Where you push hard. That's where you push the comfort zones. Okay, so like it might be a Monday, it might be a Saturday, and you know it's going to be a tough day. So you're going to get it on. And I usually say Monday because you can get out of your system for the rest of the week. And once you've done that, then you can kind of go, okay, I'm going to take a day off Tuesday because I'm naturally going to be fatigued after that. And then when I plan out the rest of my week, I'm going to go, right, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, I'm just going to do moderate training, okay? And then boom, I'm going to get it out of the way early. So there's nothing wrong with going hard and pushing yourself and testing your limits. But when you do it over and over and over again, it's non-productive.
Right. Yeah. So So have that particular day set aside for pushing it. Maybe a bit of a rest day or two after that, and then go on for your normal routines again.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it just kind of lets you. It allows you to play with your like. It allows you to like if you want to push it. Do you know what I mean? If you want to do 12 sprints up the hill rather than 8, see what you got. But if you're going up there and you can't even breathe, then stop. Like it's just having common sense. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think at the beginning of May, I kind of wanted to really get ahead of myself on the 100K in May, and I was doing. My plan was to do 5K Monday to Friday and have a rest at the weekend. But once I started going, and especially using the apps, I started running, and you see your time coming down. You think, actually, I could get this down to 30 minutes from 38 minutes. I'm sure I could do that by the end of the week. Yeah. And I absolutely killed myself. And one of the guys, Mark Davis, who's one of our data soldiers on there, came up and said, you need to listen to your body. You need to space it out a bit more. So now I'm doing 5K every other day. Yeah. I'm not so much focused actually on getting my time down to any limit, but actually that's happened anyway, because I've just been enjoying the run a lot more.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And if you're trying to break a time every single day, you're going to be exhausted. Like, you're going 100% every time rather than do tempo running, interval running, sprints, like varying it up, mobility, strength, all the other things that you can do. Where, like, one of the things that I would say if someone's trying to improve a time is trying to improve it every 3 weeks. Like, do 3 weeks worth of training or 4 weeks worth of training at the start of each month. It's PB day. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If you want to improve your deadlift, start of the month is PB day. Like, see what we got, see where we are.
So it's almost like working towards a race itself, isn't it? Yeah. The rest of it's just training, and then you mark in a day for, right, this is the day I'm going to bring this PB down. Yeah,
you wouldn't do a marathon every single day for 7 days for the day of the race, would you? You otherwise you'd be ruined. So you'd literally go, okay, let's think about a training plan. You slowly peak. You're peaking up to the top, right? Boom, then you hit it. Okay, what's next?
Yeah,
and then you're away.
So work towards the next goal. You mentioned obviously about not over pushing it at the gym, and that's something that none of us can do at the moment. So a lot of people are working out from home. What are your key pieces of equipment to have for working at home? Obviously, we can get out there running, can potentially do swimming as well. But what about actually working out in the home?
So me and the missus, because the gym's not open, we decided that we were just going to do 4 workouts a week on the Man Coach page to keep ourselves accountable. We'd go live and just share that workout with other people, you know, completely free, just kind of putting it out there. They're not massively well structured. It's just us having a laugh working out, but they are working. So the one piece of equipment that we use is a kettlebell.
Yeah.
Only use a kettlebell if you know how to use a kettlebell safely and wisely, and you're sensible with it. But there's nothing wrong with own body weight as well. You know, I think this is where I think a lot of people try to overdo things when they can't even do things with their own body weight. Like own body weight strength and conditioning is a great start. And then I see people lifting 20 kilogram kettlebells, yet they can't even do a squat normally without a kettlebell. It's where that common sense is kind of like, think about the basic stuff, right? Basic. Start nice and slow. And this is the other thing, is that people, I think, overthink training so much, because start basic. Start with, I'm going to work for 30 seconds. I'm going to rest for 30 seconds. Okay. If 30 seconds isn't enough, I'm going to take another 30 seconds. So this is where we've got to drop the ego. This is where you got to go, I'm not very fit. I'm 4 stone overweight. So doing press ups is naturally going to be hard for me. So I'm just going to do press ups whole. Think about like basics, foundations, and then grow.
Yeah, brilliant. I think that's, and it all goes back out to planning and having that, everything we're talking about now works around goal setting, doesn't it? Yeah. It's just so important.
The small wins, mate, as well. Lots and lots of small wins. Like, so for you, if I said to you, I want you to do 10K, okay, let's say you had never run before. And I said to you, right, I want you to do 10K by the end of July. It's about, right, the first step for you is actually just getting your trainers on and getting down a promenade. So I'd say to you, I want you to go and do a 2-mile walk, like literally just walk. And that's how it starts. We start off with that 2-mile walk, and it's little steps every single day in the program to achieve 5-10K at the end of July. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Breaking it down into smaller steps. I've just seen Errol's got a check out there. But remember, guys, this will be played out again as a watch party at 8 p.m. tonight. So if you want to join, I will be there in the background as well, and we can pass anything on to JB. I think, a lot of the questions I've got here, do ultimately end up as you've got to have a goal to be able to do it. But how do you get up early and go out? And at the moment, it's nice and bright outside. How do you motivate yourself, other than the goal on a cold, wet January morning, to get out there and do it?
To prove everyone else that it can be done.
Right.
That's what I do. So right now, there's loads of people down the seafront. Yeah. When it comes to January and it's pissing down rain, I've all got my waterproofs on. It's still me showing up, and it's still me leading by example. And I'm like, when people start, it's all right for him. It's nice and sunny in the sea. But when I'm still there doing my morning show and it's blowing a gale, I was out there every day through the winter, through snow, hail, rain, wind, every day without a fail. And that is because if people use it as an excuse, they use it as a reason why they can't. I can't do this because of this. I can't do this because of this. And you never end up actually achieving anything. You end up, you just find cock blocks, as I call them, to stop you moving forwards all of the time. Yeah. All right. And it's just like, just do it. Just get out there. Why should it be any different just because of the weather? It's actually quite invigorating when you're out there and you get back in the car and you're like, wow, that was mental. But like, you piss wet through, but it's nothing you dry on it. It's not forever. It's character building.
Yeah, I think, I've heard people say before, actually, if you're really feeling down, sometimes we might be ill, our bodies might be down. But actually, even if you put on your shoes and walk out the door and then turn around again, at least that's a little step towards something. You are trying to motivate yourself, and I've certainly got up before and, intended to go to work and had a really horrible cold and actually ended up sitting on the sofa dressed in my work clothes all day because I just couldn't get up again. But actually, I still felt that motivation to get up and do it, I think trying is quite important, but trying to push yourself that little bit as well.
Well, there's 3 C's that might help your guys. And these 3 C's are what I feel are the turning wheels of the engine, okay? So the first one is there's 3 C's. The first C is consistency of action, okay? No matter how small or large, but just consistent action. And that means showing up every single day, okay, in some way, shape or form, okay, whatever it might be. The second one is control of your time, your energy, and your productivity. So controlling everything that you do, the time that you own, your time is your most valuable currency that you own. Not money, not the money in your bank, not your house. Yeah. You can buy new houses, you can lose a house and get a house back. But like when today finishes, you will never get today back. Okay, so a number of people are going around going, I'm going to start Monday, I'm going to start next week, I'm just not ready right now, my head's just like excuses. You will end up waking up in 5 years' time, turning around and going, I wish I'd started 5 years ago. You're like, and this is what I keep saying to people. People just waste time. If we want to make something ourselves and we want to be fulfilled and we want something that has meaning and drive and purpose, then you've got to be able to control your time and your energy and be as productive as possible. And then the last one is having clarity about your North Star. And I always use the term North Star. I hate the word goals because most people will write out goals and forget them the next day. So it's like a North Star is something that has meaning, drive, passion, vision, something that we're aiming for. It puts us on the right path. And those three together are powerful. When you take consistent action based against your clarity, based against your clarity or whatever it is that you're focusing on, you can't go wrong. You literally can't go wrong. You know?
Yeah. I think it's actually something you touched on there as well. I mean, I've just written those down and I think they're really powerful. But you touched on control of time, and I think people forget that, and there's a saying that I heard that, money is abundant and time is finite. You can't buy it. You can't sell it. It is your most important asset. And you got to remember that when a customer comes a call in on a Sunday afternoon and demanding that you go out and do some work, you've got to think to yourself, actually, what you're selling them is your time, and you'll never get that back. You'll never get that chance with your children again or your partner.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And I remember listening to a podcast. I can't remember when it was when I was training for my 100-mile race, but I was listening to it in detail, and it was saying, imagine that you're on your deathbed for the last minute of your life. Okay, and you're looking back at that person, that version of you 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, what would you tell them? Like, what would you tell those people? And it's, you'd always come back, you're going to tell him how much money you made, or you're going to tell him about all of the times that you missed out on them and all the times that you couldn't be with them, all the times you weren't present for them. Because when you get cremated or buried or however it's going to happen, all of that money that you have acquired, all of that means nothing. Okay,
yeah.
You don't have. I'd rather be on a deathbed with memories, like
yes,
100%. And like, if you choose the two, like, you don't go to whatever's next with all of your money. You go with just everything and the legacy that you leave behind. The only thing that we can leave behind is our legacy to our children. Okay, in terms of the passion for life, the hunger for success, the attention to detail to family. Them understanding your time, you almost trying to create a better version of you in them. And by teaching them your faults and by teaching them the things that didn't go right for you, so that then they can embrace them, nurture them and pass them on. And you end up having a legacy. And I'm doing a vlog at the minute. One of the vlogs I realized I did was for me to understand myself better. But if I passed away early in 5 years, 3 years, all of my kids can come back and watch those vlogs and see everything that I was trying to achieve, see my legacy there. And it's just like, it's empowering, because legacy is the key word. Legacy is the most important currency that we have to pass on, not inheritance and money, although it helps, but in terms of legacy, in terms of personality and life and growth.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there, and I know Matt was in the background. He's cheering that one on, and Justin, thanks for joining us this morning. So he's set up a charity called Wallow Foundation. We only live once, helping families affected by cancer. So that's something that's happened recently in my life with a family member. It's been very sad, and it's made me think a lot more about living my life. Justin just said there, we must live for today. And I think we got to set our future goals, but actually let's not forget about today.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, goals are all good. All of that stuff is great. but you do have to be present in the moment. Like, when it comes to it, being present right here, right now, engrossed in this conversation here, which is great.
Yeah.
Just the goals and the North Star and everything that's down there is just giving us a little bit of sense of purpose and drive and emotion and passion, so that when we need to fall back on it, we're like, oh, I know the bigger picture. So like for mine, I'll share mine. In 6 years, we want to go traveling as a family for like 6 to 12 months. Who knows? We just want to fill up the backpacks and go. That's what we want to do. That's what we're working towards. Everything we're doing is in a line to meet that need, to meet that outcome. Everything, closing down my local boot camp, stretching my online business so that I can, when I go, I'll be able to develop and showcase the brand and help men all around the world, as well as working. And it's kind of be a great little mission that we're going to go on.
Very similar to mine, actually. It's something I really want to do. We've got family in New Zealand, and actually you asked before we came on live about Dad the Soul and about how that's going to develop. We want to be national. We want to be international. I want to go over to New Zealand and set up Dad the Soul, and that's part of our plan to go traveling and to do this and to spread the word.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the longer term plan. And that means we're not collecting so many assets or paying for cars on finance, or, we could really do with a bigger house at the moment, but actually we get on all right. It's not costing us a lot of money, because at the end of the day, that's just chucking money away, and it's not going to help us go with the bigger plan. And just Tyler's just popped up there saying it's one of the purposes why he's doing West Tarrant Young People's Club. So yeah, I think it gives people time to spend time with other people, and again it goes back to what Dad the Soul is there for, to let people be present with their children. We're in the last few minutes of the show. I just there's one more thing I wanted to ask you, actually. And it's something I've experienced a lot through my life and learned to deal with a lot. And I know it's something you've dealt with, but should we as men, as dads, be more open to failure and failing?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely. It's really hard, isn't it? Because you face the ego of this image there where like failure is seen as a bad thing, where it's a growth tool. I have failed like literally so many times. I would say my 30s. I would say all the failures in my 30s have created me in my 40s. Do you know what I mean? It was it was a car crash of mistakes. And it's really, really difficult sometimes to face failure. And I think there's a difference between knowing that you failed, but facing the failures that or owning them. It's a big thing in the military that, failure is part of the progress to become a much more elite soldier. I remember doing my sniper course. It's a very, very difficult course, like in terms of soldiering skill. And to be honest, it was out of my league, like when I did it. But my learning curve just went like this, just through failure. And like I failed for like 9 weeks of that course, I would probably say. I passed all the shoots, but then like we were over through the skills phase, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to pass this. And then all of a sudden we got to test week, and I just passed. I literally just passed everything. And it was incredible because I just kept on failing and failing and failing. And in the end, we get the win. And that's how I see life. I talked about, again, ironically, on my show this morning in terms of overestimating what we can achieve in the year, but underestimating what we can achieve in the 5 years. And what we can achieve in the 5 years is based on, I look at my business career, all of the failures, boom, like fail, there's a win. Fail, there's a win. There's a win. Oh, fail. And then it's kind of like that pattern, right? And I think when you can like swerve them and you can overcome them and you can take something from them, you've got that in your arsenal, and then you can take that on to the next one.
Totally agree. I think most people, I went along to a networking group once, and I was chatting to someone, and I said, I had a previous business that failed, and they went, oh no, we don't talk about that. And I think, hang on, that's wrong. We should be open and talk about it, because we let people know that we're human and that happens. failed to succeed. Tyler saying there, and I also noticed on his previous one, he said thank you very much, James, for this. There's people getting a lot out of it here, and I also noticed as well that just trying to answer all the things that are popping up, that Dan has popped up and said, would you and your kids like to come along to one of our Dad Souls? So I'm sure when we get going again, we can send you an invite and come along.
That'd be great. It'd be great to get out of Bexhill. I'm stuck in here. Feel like
it just come up there actually. No one invented something perfectly first time, and I know you look at things like James Dyson. I talk about. I think he knew how he wanted to create the Dyson vacuum cleaner, but he did 1,500 different developments to make that happen. He failed 1,500 times before he developed the Dyson vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, 100%. And Michael Jordan, you might have heard the story about Michael Jordan as well. He was cut from the team for a year, failed for a year, just got up, and that's what drives him. You should use your failure as the fire to go to the next level as well. Like I often, whenever I fail at something, it's usually the hunger that gets me up from it. And by the way, my terminology of failure could be different to yours as well. So yes, a lot of people might see me as doing well, but a lot of the things that you think I do well, I see as sometimes failure, because it's our own perception of that as well. So it's very different for everybody.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I think you've just got it goes back to your goal setting and like you said, your North Star. And thank you, Mark, there for jumping in there. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you for everyone for joining us on this one today. It's been brilliant. Can you please, if you're still out there, I know you're still out there because I can see you. Or I can see numbers. I can't see who's there. Can you just press the share button one more time? Just get it out there. And if you're watching this back on the rerun tonight, 8 p.m. or any other time, throw your questions in. We'd be happy to answer them. JB, how can we get in contact with you? We got your Facebook page, The Man Coach JB. Yeah. Can you tell us about that, your website, and your book as well?
So the book is 2 seconds.
I've actually read the book, guys. Well, I've listened to the audio book version.
Is there? That's it. That's what it looks like. It's A State of Mind. It's on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon on audio. The social platforms are Instagram and Facebook on The Man Coach at the minute. So we do shows and vlogs and everything. Loads of like free content on there. There's a podcast called It's A State of Mind. So you can listen to all of the shows and content. There's hours and hours of content on there. I think there's over 500 podcasts on there now. And I'm on LinkedIn on James Boardman. And I think that's probably about it. Yeah. So just reach out.
Matt's posted the links to that in the chat. I was just saying to everyone that I'd listened to your book on Audible. So if anyone subscribed to Audible, it's $7.99 a month. You get a free book each month, and you can upgrade it. So actually, I find it very useful when I'm driving around in my van doing my normal work. That's real dead time. So I don't listen to the radio anymore. I don't listen to people talking about Brexit or virus or anything like that. I use that time to learn. And
me too. Always. If I tell you what, if you're in a car and you haven't got an audio book or a podcast, you need to slap yourself.
All right, brilliant. Thank you to Matt in the background there. Been doing wonderful work. Thank you to everyone that's joined us in the comments. JD, you've been amazing. The audience, you've been amazing. And I've been Mark Cropley. Thank you very much. Let's sign it out there, Matthew. Dun, dun, dun. Takes a few.